Jason in Pennsylvania.
All right, last caller, Jason.
You're live with Eric and V. Oh, maybe. Possibly.
Come on,
if the button works. There we go, Jason.
There we go.
Hi, thank you. I'm an agnostic, and I heavily towards creation because evolution to me doesn't really make sense. I don't really see the the species that would be. I'm sorry.
Well, first off, I just wanted to really quickly. You do realize evolution is not in any way it's not fighting with creation. So the creation myth is fighting with abiogenesis. So we could talk about abiogenesis, but I'm sorry?
Yeah, I've never heard that. I've never heard that term abiogenesis before.
Oh, I would be happy to tell you. Or do you want to tell them?
So the difference between, and this is actually, thank you for clarifying that, because we wouldn't want to talk past or around anybody without, sharing the same terminology. So abiogenesis is the discussion of how life began on this planet, or in general. How does life come from non-life? That is that conversation. And a lot of the time that is equivocated with evolution, but it's a separate thing. So there are people who study abiogenesis specifically who are not evolutionary biology scientists. Mm-hmm. Evolution is a process of changing of allele frequencies over time. So it is the concept that a species will change and adapt to their environment and have enough genetic differences passed on to their children to the point where they can no longer breed with their previous ancestors, and then they become a new species. So the concept of changing over time, actually a lot of theists believe that evolution is actually accurate because it doesn't touch on where life began. It just touches on the very provable and observable process of species changing into different species over time. Yeah. So if you want to talk about the distinction between creationism and that God created life in the beginning versus abiogenesis, where life kind of just came into existence through naturalistic processes, we can have that conversation. But evolution versus creationism is actually a misrepresentation.
Yeah. But what people don't understand is you have to have the species there in the first place. Mm-hmm. And then we can talk about evolution, but you're talking about creation. And so, you can even break down abiogenesis as its word, bio being life, genesis, the creation, right? It's even borrowing from the Bible in that word, right? And so you have the unique biological beginnings of life. So you want to talk about creation versus abiogenesis. What about it?
Well, my question is, why isn't there something that's in between, like monkeys or humans, whatever our last, species was? And I guess maybe she said it's because we can no longer breed with them.
Well, so again, that has nothing to do with abiogenesis.
Well, okay, we may have misrepresented in this case. So you are actually you're not worried necessarily in this call about where life came from. You actually believe that God created individual species wholly in their own species separately from other groups, right? Yeah. And then you're debating whether or not we actually evolved from different species.
Yeah, it does seem more reasonable to me to believe that God created us in our individual species.
I understood that's what it seems like to you. I just want to hammer home, because I think that you will wow a lot of atheists if you make this distinction, and that is that you're not arguing creation.
No,
you're arguing how speciation happens, or whether or not speciation happens at all, because creation would be about the popping into existence of life, and that evolution does not come into it, right? You're talking about non-transitional species, means that you're arguing about evolution that is not creation. So, yeah, you're wondering whether or not speciation happens, correct?
You guys kind of lost me, because I think I'm arguing that God created everything, and there was no evolution. That's what I was calling about.
Okay, so you just said two things: God created everything, and there was no evolution. So Let's
Right.
break that down. There's the claim, God created everything. And what's the opposite? Not God created everything. So that would be a discussion that we would need to have directly for us to be talking to each other, not past each other. And the other one is evolution didn't happen, right? And so the inverse of that would be evolution happened. And so we can talk about that directly, or else we're talking past each other. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, I don't want to talk past you.
I don't want to talk past you either.
So let's focus on your question about transitional species and not bring the God claim into it yet. So let's just talk about, let's pretend all options are on the table.
Okay.
And let's look at, are there transitional species? And what does that look like? And is that a reasonable claim to make? And then based on our discussion there, we can or cannot move into, well, what are other options to explain this? Does that sound like a plan to you, Jason?
Sure.
Okay, because I think that's going to weed out some of the semantics that's going on. So there are transitional species between what we are now and the species that originated this particular line of similar species. So the question that you're asking, I understand where you're coming from. It's kind of like asking, well, where is the transitional species between my grandmother and me? Like, where is the person, like, where is the person between my genetic, ancestor and me? There's no one that is like half your grandmother and half you, right? There's your mom, but she is her own thing, and she continues to exist even after you exist. You have not turned from your grandmother into you. In the same way, we have a common ancestor, but then the family tree kind of separates. So there's no half monkey, half chimpanzee, half human, because we're just different branches of that family tree that starts with a common ancestor. But we can, and we do have species that come along the line of that tree. So we have tracked our species from what we are now back to our evolutionary ancestor. But that doesn't mean that right now we should expect to see people who are half chimpanzee and half human.
Well, I guess I could agree with that, but it doesn't seem like the fossil record is very good. It seems like I should be able to go to a museum somewhere and see some good fossil records.
You can.
I've never been able to do that.
Really,
where are they at?
COVID, but I highly suggest you look at where you can find really good, because there are some amazing. I think it was the National History Museum.
Possibly.
That has an incredible record on that. That said, I think you probably, if you were listening to the earlier calls, not having anything about, not understanding or not having sufficient evidence to warrant your belief in evolution does not back up your claim that God did it or that it's not a thing. You need evidence of your own to put forward. Do you have evidence for your claim?
No.
Do you think you should?
Yes.
I agree.
Yeah, that might be a great place to start thinking about, okay, well, whether or not I am in agreement with this body of evidence, I need my own separate body of evidence in order to prove my claim. So maybe do some research and see if you can find some evidence to back up your claim, and then present that to us on a future call, and then we can talk about that.
Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks for your help, you guys.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
for sure. Good question.
I'm sorry. You know what? I'm sorry. I had a second question. Can I ask it?
Yeah, what's up, man?
I was wondering how we date the age of the Earth, like with rocks.
Ooh, okay. So I am way out of my depth when it comes to this, and I feel like I'm shouting him out on every single show, but we have a lot of callers who ask this. Look up Viced Rhino. That's VICED, rhino as in rhinoceros. He does some amazing work breaking down exactly how geological dating works and exactly how we get the ages of everything from the Earth to different dinosaur bones to fossils, like all of that. So very, very digestible, talks specifically about what Christians say versus what people who are not Christians say. So I would recommend checking him out. He's the person I'd go to for that.
Yeah. If you want to look at where you could fall into a hole, Apologia and R and Ra are both very good at pointing out logical holes that people fall into that you don't want to fall into. You want to have good reasons for things, and often we lean on poor reasoning to back up what we are claiming is true. And they're both very, very good at pointing out, hey, here's the problem in that reasoning.
Okay. Thanks again, guys. Have a good day.
You too.
For sure.
You know, there was one point that I wanted to make, but it didn't feel like it fit in with the call. And that is that we're not the end product of evolution.
Right, exactly.
We are transitional species between what was before and what will be in the future. And so if you want a transitional species, look in the mirror.
Exactly. It's the same concept with the first caller, I think, who was talking about the eye. Like, we are somehow the end result of what eyes should be. We just happen to have the eyes that we have, and we make do with what we've got. We can't see the full color spectrum. We can't see things in blind spots. We just assume that our eyes are the way they're supposed to be, but it's just because we don't have other options.
Well, and I mean, all you got to do is look at the pistol shrimp. I love its eyes. It can see so many colors. It is just insane. Or the eyes of a hawk. But moving on, you know, actually, we have time to move to the Discord, and I really, really would love to talk to the people in Discord.
Yes, that would be awesome.
Yeah? Cool. Okay, so if you have not joined our Discord, now's the time, because you can hop in and come say hi to us. The link is down on the lower third, tiny.cc/ACA Discord. That's tiny.cc/ACA Discord. And if you're listening to this or watching this later, this link is still good. Come and join us. Come say hi. We've got an amazing community there. We'd be happy to hop in and answer questions.
Yeah.
All right.
In the meantime.
Hey, Vern. Happy birthday.
Crew cam, anybody? Anybody want a crew cam? There we go. Woo.
Yeah. We love you guys. Thank you so much.